To travel or not to travel? Should you start your career? Should you go buy a house, or should you go traveling? These are the big questions that we're going to be debating here today. So, Ricky, I would love to know, to travel or not to travel? What is your answer?
Well, that's a very good question, and I don't think there is a right answer, although I do have my opinion.
I would love to love to hear your opinion. The world wants to hear your opinion.
Our one follower, Zeus.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of travel, right? So I think the world is so big. I think there's so many things to explore, so many different cultures to experience, but it's just finding the right time. You don't want to travel at a time where you've got no money, so you can't experience these things, but you also don't want to leave it too late, so you're too old when all these things happen.
Too old for bunk beds, you mean? Too old for hotels and hostels?
And yeah, I suppose that for me was quite fun, you know, apart from the fact we were freshly engaged and living in bunk beds and stuff like that for a couple of months. But I think the whole point was, I'm a big fan of traveling, and I think you need to get out and see the world. I met a person once who asked me to go, why do you want to go traveling? I can just look up all the things on Google and have a look at the Eiffel Tower and have a look at the Colosseum. And I was like, yeah, but it's the whole atmosphere. It's the whole getting there, experience and the vibe, you know, learning the culture, just the whole thing, actually physically seeing it and walking through it. It's just spectacular.
Spectacular. We've got all the adjectives here today. So why do we even want to travel? Like, why is this a decision that we make? Like, why is it always something that's like you turn 20 or something and you can say, oh, you're going to do your big OE. Why is that even a thing, do you reckon?
I think it comes down to people not knowing what they want. And some people, me being one of them, would use that as a gap year or an easy answer to why you haven't got your life figured out. Oh, what are you doing with your life? Panic. I'm going to go travel.
With no money.
Because it seems like such an easy answer. It's a great answer.
Is that what you did?
That's what I planned on doing. I just didn't have the money to do it. And then I decided when I did go traveling, I wanted to have enough money to actually enjoy the things. Plus, I realized how much planning is actually involved when you want to go traveling. And then planning ain't the best, so it did take a little bit.
So what I'm hearing is that you waited until you had a girlfriend who was a good planner and could plan all your trips for you.
100%.
Strategic. This is very, very
strategic life. What about you?
Why travel?
Yeah, why travel? Why did you want to go traveling?
I wanted to go traveling because I was just hating the world and thought New Zealand was a small place, and I felt very stuck, to be perfectly honest. Like, that's why I wanted to go out and see the world, was because I felt like New Zealand was getting a little bit small and I was having a bit of an existential life crisis at the time, and I knew that I had to go out and experience, otherwise I was probably going to go nuts. So for me, that is why I wanted to go traveling. I thought it would solve my problems. It didn't solve my problems, but it definitely gave me fresh perspectives that was really healthy for me. And I wanted to go traveling after I had paid off my student loan, because I knew that I'd have to start paying tax on it, which was a bit of an excuse, I guess, for me to stick around in New Zealand. But it was nice to have that taken care of, so that it's one less thing I'd have to worry about, because you do start accumulating tax on your hefty student loans as soon as you leave the country and start working. So that's why I waited until I was like, I don't know, late 20s.
What attracted you to traveling? There's got to be some aspect that attracted it to you, or was it like me where it was you couldn't figure out what you wanted to do, so it was you're out?
Yeah, I think it's just I think it's pretty typical to have like a bit of an early life crisis where you, particularly if you don't go traveling immediately out of school, if you start your career, you launch into your career and then you're like, oh, raring to go. And then a few years later, you realize, I don't really like this adulting stuff. Actually having to work every day to survive isn't all that fun. There must be more to life. And that's when I guess I started seeing travel as like a good option and a desirable option. So then it was more like, oh, I'm not like working in order to go out and party on the weekends and then go back to work. I'm working to save so that I can go on adventures.
Nice. That's quite cool. Actually, what you said there, working to save. See, I talked up for so long wanting to travel, wanting to see the world, but never put anything into action. Like I've gone to
Start saving for it.
well, I've gone to Australia, right? But Australia is just another version of New Zealand in terms of culture.
Snakes and spiders.
Well, things that can kill you, right? And we're not there. But what I mean was sometimes it's just jumping head first. Like my first proper overseas trip that wasn't to Australia was with you. We went to Bali, and before I met you, I'd been talking up, traveling and seeing the world and going to all these places. The moment we went to Bali, which is quite a big culture shock.
Very different.
Yep. Fell in love with traveling. Just the whole concept, the whole adventure, the whole journey.
It's different, right? Particularly somewhere like Southeast Asia and Bali, you're like, oh, I am not home. I definitely don't not have the comforts of my home. And also, I could die today. Like that's the type of feeling that you get. You're like, oh, this isn't very safe, but this is fun. Like that adrenaline rush when it's just completely different how they live, and it's fascinating, and it's so amazing to be exposed to things like that. Just have really good travel insurance, and you'll be fine.
Oh, it was amazing that these, walking through rice fields, for example, people that literally get up, work 12-hour days, 365 or 66 days of the year, and they've got a smile on their face. They don't have all the expensive things that we normalize that you need to have to be happy. They've just got the bare minimum, and they're smiling every single day, enjoying life. They probably live a hell of a lot longer than us. And getting to see that, getting to experience that, the moment we got back, I was like, all right, where we go next? And then straight away we're like, you know what? Let's just dive all in. Let's just pack up and hit Europe. I mean, probably a little bit later than the majority, but like you said, you were paying off student loan. I was trying to actually do some of the things that I said I wanted to do. So it all planned out.
Yeah, I think there's, when it comes down to it, when's the ideal time to travel? I think 20s is the ideal time to travel if you want to do the hostel, do it cheap, get to know who you are and your own identity. I think that's a really big reason why people in their 20s go traveling, is because they don't know who they are yet. Traveling forces you to do uncomfortable things like meet people, go exploring by yourself, eat different food, like work out how the heck to get from A to B in a country whose language you have no idea what the signs say. So it's really like a great way to grow very, very quickly and to become very independent. So I'd always recommend traveling in your 20s, but that's not always possible. Like sometimes people will have babies, or their career doesn't make that happen for them for whatever reason. They've got family things to attend to. So what would be your advice to people who haven't travelled in their 20s and may have perhaps missed that boat when it comes to, the working visas, etc.?
That's a good call, and preferably my thing would be don't go traveling or do the exploring unless you've got yourself semi-set up with a decent job or a decent qualification to fall back on. Because the last thing you want to do is, say, go when you're super young, but you don't really have any work experience, and you get over to whatever country you're traveling to, but you're working in a pub, and you're only working to pay your rent, your bills, and potentially have a night out or two in the place you live in. You don't actually have the income to go out and do things. So if you are traveling at a later period, like you said, at least you've got a career behind you. You can come in, get paid there or thereabouts, so you're getting paid over here, and actually enjoy it. And I wouldn't worry too much about the age thing. I've been thinking about this since we were talking about this potentially being a podcast, and I thought, you're missing out on, you want to do full moon party in Thailand when you're younger. You want to do these music festivals and stuff when you're younger. But when we went to them, we had the best time, and they were with people in their 40s or 50s, and we started hanging out with them. We're at Tomorrowland and met people in their 60s that were just vibing, So I don't think there is a real age. Like when you're traveling, age gets thrown out the window. It's just people there enjoying life on the same boat. They all wanted to be there to explore. They all wanted to be there to have adventures and learn. And they end up bonding over it.
I guess that's an interesting thing about age, because, well, to be honest, now I don't feel like I want to go to festivals in Europe. Like that doesn't really excite me like it used to. I'd rather, take me around to nice restaurants and bars and like sightsee.
Do they have to be nice?
Yes, they have to be nice now. My taste has changed. I think like your taste and your flavour just develops over time. So, you know, back in London when I was 27, I have no idea, no concept of age. I didn't mind sleeping in a dorm with 9 other people, but now, no thank you. Like, I couldn't think of anything worse. So I think the way that you travel just needs to change depending on where you're at in your life, and you don't want to have a crap time because you need to save a few bucks. It's like, yeah, invest in your experience, otherwise you'll have a bad one.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. And that's probably a good point. Your taste changes, and you're right. I don't think I could do another 3 or 7 day festival sleeping in a tent, you know, drinking continuously. I think my liver or my body would just
Cark it.
fall into
R.I.P. Ricky.
take a St. Grave. We couldn't come out of the tent. But I definitely couldn't do any more hostels again. You're right. The older you get, the more your taste changes and the more your traveling style changes. But I did.
There's no right or wrong way to travel either. It's just whatever suits you and when you're at that stage of your life. But just circling back to getting a good job when you're traveling, working in a pub isn't fun. I did it for a few weeks in London. I hated it by the end of those first few weeks until I was like waiting to get an actual job in what I had studied. I worked in a pub and oh my goodness, I realised how much I hate people.
You were the only person at that pub that actually could pour a proper beer.
Well, I poured a Kiwi beer. They don't like it over there. They want an inch of foam, and if you don't give it to them, they get upset. Whereas here, they want an inch of extra beer. They want no foam at all. It's just a different world, completely different world. Shocking. But yeah, I think if you can get into a good job, you've got qualifications behind you. If you're wanting to live abroad anyway, it makes that transitional experience so much easier, and it means that you can actually afford to travel while you're there. Because otherwise, if we were living off my bartending wage, that wouldn't even cover our rent.
No. No.
Not at all. So what about, sacrificing things like buying a house to go traveling? What's your thoughts on that? Because I feel like in your 20s and early 30s, it's either you've got a choice. You can either choose to buy a house and to pay off a mortgage for the rest of your life, or you can choose to go traveling and worry about that later.
This is a really great looking question, and
that you don't have an answer to.
I don't have an answer to. I know this is terrible life advice, so I'm going to give my terrible advice. Mm-hmm. And it's probably not the advice you're thinking of, but housing market's not going to go anywhere. It might be slightly more expensive, but it's still going to be relevant, all right? So that you're always going to have an option to buy a house.
It always does in cycles.
Correct. And then, unless there's a world war or Venice finally sinks, nothing overseas is going to go anywhere. So you can really go down either path. It's just what is the most applicable at your point in time in your life. So for us, we both didn't even express any interest in buying a house at that point, so our focus or our vision was travel.
The lines were made up.
Yeah, it was see the world, and we thought, we didn't expect the housing market to go boom like it did, but still, it's dropped down now. So, come swings and roundabouts. We just happened to come back at the high time.
And buy at the wrong time.
But we're in.
Yeah, precisely. We all make choices.
We do. But that I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. My advice is whatever point in your life you're in, whatever your focus is, just go for that one. Don't hum and ha about what should I do, what shouldn't I do. Do both. Just prioritize one over the other.
Yeah.
Because both of them aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So just make a decision, back yourself, and follow it.
Yeah, and I think there doesn't always need to be a sacrifice. Like, my response overseas, or when, people would ask me, well, are you ever going to settle down and buy a house? My response would be, well, I just want to enjoy my 20s and traveling right now and experiencing. I've got my whole entire life to have crippling debt that I've got to pay off. So that's how I saw it. I didn't see it as sacrificing buying a house in that moment. I saw it as just waiting a bit longer before I did that. And the thing is, you can still do it. You can go traveling and you can buy your house after, or you can start your family, or you can, settle down after. But also, you can do that later if you've chosen the other way. Like if you've chosen to settle down, really focus on your career and that side of things, starting a family, etc. it just looks different, doesn't it? It just looks different. And I think a lot of us get in our head, oh no, I have to, I've got to pay off my mortgage, and that's what their focus is. It's like, you're going to have a mortgage for a long time. It's like amazing if you can pay it off, but also enjoy the journey. Like, you got to enjoy your life. Otherwise, what are we doing this for?
100%. You got to realize that, you've, family, house, travel. I mean, there's a lot more in life apart from the big three, but you can't do them all at the same time. So you just pick whatever ones are relevant and just do those ones, and then the next two, and then the next one.
Did you say family, life, travel? Or wife?
House. Oh. Family, house, travel.
Oh, okay. I had no idea what the three things were. I was like, what's this life thing? That must be important.
What's in the red wine? Jeez.
Maybe you said house. I don't know.
I didn't know. Maybe not.
We digress. Anyway, the red wine's hitting us hard. So, do you have any final words? We'll keep this short and sweet.
Final words. Yeah, just find out what's relevant. There is no right or wrong answer. Whatever you're wanting to do at that point in your time or your point in your life, I mean, just go all in, because everything else is going to stick around. It's just whenever you want to do it, it's ready for you.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful sign off. Yeah, no, good. Let's leave it at that. Ricky said it all. I don't even need to finish up with a few words. But thank you all for listening. This is Terrible Life Advice. I hope you got some nuggets within that. I have no idea. This was a bit of a schmozzle and I love it. So thank you, Ricky. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, fans. Thank you, Zeus.
Thank you, Janelle. This is Terrible Life Advice. Signing off.